it's 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and call this Select Board meeting to order for October 18th, 2021. We do have a mic at the podium now for the room as well as for CTSB, and I want to thank CTSB for recording this meeting. Others may do the same just upon informing the chair. We also have wipes at the microphone, so if you just would wipe down the larger of the two mics, that would be great, just to protect those who follow. All right, our first item of business is approval of meeting minutes, and we're going to pass over that. So let's go to our second item, which is a presentation by Phil Arnold of Berkshire Regional Planning Commission on the housing production plan. Unfortunately, we got an email this morning that Phil had an emergency in his family and is out of town. So he sent us kind of the overview of what he was going to present today for us. And Martin, if you're comfortable doing so, I'd like you just, if you would read the main points of his presentation for us.
I'd be happy
Okay?
to.
If you can't hear, either move up or just raise your hand so we can try to talk louder. All right?
So this is from Phil Arnold to Renee Wood regarding tonight's meeting on housing production. So I'm just going to read the bullet points that Phil provided to us that he would have otherwise presented. The housing production plan began with Berkshire Regional Planning Commission developing a housing needs assessment, a data-driven document of the current conditions in town. That draft is now largely complete, and it was funded through a district local technical assistance program, which is a state program that distributes money to all Massachusetts regional planning agencies. And then we apply for our own portion of that for assistance on a variety of projects. So it's really a grant of services, not of money. The Regional Planning Commission's role here is to be technical advisor and help Sheffield through the process of creating a housing production plan, also known as an HPP. It includes a comprehensive inventory on housing needs, which has already been done through the housing needs assessment. The housing production plan does a couple of further steps by including housing goals and an implementation strategy. The goals are developed through a public process to gather input from Sheffield residents. Ultimately, the plan should be approved by the Department of Housing and Community Development. And when funding opportunities become available, communities with housing production plans will be eligible. Aside from the financial aspect, the plan will show what types of housing are desired in town, where new housing should be located, and what this new development should look like. It also helps communities meet state mandates requiring that 10% of their total year-round housing to be affordable. And according to the Department of Housing and Community Development, as of December 2020, Sheffield had 1,507 year-round housing units, and only 30 are in the subsidized housing inventory, which is about 2%. So we've got quite a ways to go there. It's recommended to create a committee that will spearhead this effort, and Phil recommends having representation from the Planning Board and Select Board, since they'll have to approve the plan before it's submitted to the Department of Housing and Community Development, and for the committee to have no more than 5 to 7 members who were appointed by the Select Board. Finishing the plan should take several more months, but the committee will have to meet regularly during this time. I'd recommend picking a day and time that does not conflict with other town meetings and to meet bi-monthly. Respectfully submitted, Phil Arnold.
All right, this is something that I think we've talked about for quite some time. Anyone who was involved in the 2005 master plan knows that housing was a critical component, and we had hoped to do this last year, but COVID-19 absorbed the DLTA grant that we had at that time to do it. So I don't know if there's any questions specifically on what Phil would have delivered, but Martin did in his place. I will let you know that I think the 30 subsidized units that Martin spoke of are the Dewey Way complex that is controlled by the Great Barrington Housing Committee. It's not under Sheffield's purview. What I think, I'd like to just see if there's any questions on this, and then we'll get to the next point, which is talking about and seeing if the board would like to form this housing committee and kind of put some parameters around it. The housing needs assessment I would have expected that we would have had it tonight, but with Phil's absence, I think the draft will be available as soon as he comes back, and that will be put on the website, okay? I'd like to get it kind of an advance copy to the Housing Commission, who I also would like to discuss being represented on this committee. But any questions on Martin's presentation, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay. So, board members, would you like to continue to go ahead with this housing production plan and put a committee in place to report back to the board and the planning board their recommendations on the plan?
So moved.
Okay. So any discussion, and then we'll talk about the content of the plan? Maybe we vote first that we're going to have this committee, and then we'll talk about the committee, and I want Rhonda's input and public input too. So all those in favor of forming this housing committee to produce a housing production plan? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Now, what about the content of this committee? Phil does recommend, and he's done a lot of work in this area, 5 to 7 members. We've got a planning board, we've got select board. I think we have a housing committee. I think someone from them, housing commission, should be involved in that. I'm not sure, are there any other committees that you see immediately being involved, or would the other members make public application and then the select board would select them? I think we can also have ad hoc advisors, ex officio. This should be open to the public. Everything will be done at a public meeting. So we'll let that committee decide whether they feel it's best to do it by Zoom or in person, but we want the public to participate. Rhonda, suggestions from you?
So if you have 3 members already from certain groups, then you would open it up for 2 for the public?
2 or 4.
Right, maybe you see what your response is. If you get a lot of response, then you have the larger committee, and if not, you choose the other 2.
Yes. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds good.
Okay, so does that structure sound good? We'll go with that structure.
Yes.
Does the public anyone in the public want to comment on this at this moment? George?
We'll go in for the room. Did you mention the Conservation Commission, having somebody on that board or on that committee? Because
Personally, I don't see the need for the Conservation Commission because would you like to let me answer the question? You asked me a question. Would you like me to answer it?
well, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is a plan. It is not getting into the building, or they can do the mapping and see where the wetlands are. And anyone in this town on any of the boards that have been mentioned knows you can't build where there's wetlands. So it's a production plan. It's not specifically location driven.
Correct.
Like we're going to do it here or we're going to do it here. It's like we should look at starter homes, or we should look at 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes. We should look at apartments. That's my understanding of this. But I encourage you, George, to participate in it as a public member and bring up your points or send them in to Rhonda, and we will pass them on to this committee when it's formed. Anyone else have a comment? Kathy, if you're going to get up and say something, let's do it.
Kathy Orlando, Chair of the Housing Commission. And this is what the Housing Commission is designed to do. So we would definitely like to be able to work with you on as you're forming and both the tasks and the composition. There are 4 members of the Housing Commission who, are very interested in this. So we'd love to be able to continue to work with this on making sure that everything that came out of the master plan and the recommendations from the Housing Commission over the years are able to be incorporated in this. And I also have a question, which is, as everybody knows, the census was kind of taking place just before, and as was wrapping up as COVID was hitting. And so the market here has been very different and the population has grown a lot. So one of the questions that we have is there a way to be able to update any of that data to what's now? I know, Renee, you've thought about this a little bit. How do we bridge that gap between the fact that this is based on the census data with all these changes since then?
Yeah, I think when people have a chance to read that housing assessment, as Martin read, it's a data-driven document. It goes basically through 2019. There is some data that updates what has happened in the pandemic, which to some extent makes all the previous data historic. And I've talked with Phil about that, and it's all based on the American census, household census, and that data doesn't exist until they release the next census data. So I think it's going to be up to the committee to find out and to decide what additional information it needs. Frankly, we still have the tale of 2 groups of homeowners. And moderate to low income. And we still have the problems that were spelled out in the 2005. And I'm not sure that knowing, there are some data points that he pulled off of Zillow in like May and August of this year. But to be honest, I'm not sure how much any of those data points are going to make any difference of doing a housing production. You can get the low to moderate income, you can get where you need to be about affordability, but the issue is you still need housing. So what's it look like whether you're selling an $11 million place or a $250,000 place? I think this is going to be very challenging because our land is so expensive and nobody's come here looking for a 40B. But, the committee can put together what it would like. Phil will be facilitating it.
Great.
But I would just ask the question of what do you really need? Like he was supposed to bring it tonight, a map showing the buildable parcels. All right, and Tammy should I think we should ask, whoever's on the committee should ask for an update of what's the town land, what's buildable, whatever. That's a data point that wasn't included. But
well, actually, the Housing Commission had done an assessment of that 7-8 years ago, and I think that those are the data for the land that was owned at that point is there already. So we'd be happy to update that to what's now. And I guess one of the other things I think is important is going to be one of the challenges Sheffield and a lot of South County have is that gap, the workforce housing, community housing that falls in between what's, those who qualify for the capitally affordable and the market rate. And so I guess one of the things that would be helpful if they're able to assess is how much wider is that gap now, given
He's got that in the report. It's based on data that, I think the majority of people that live in Sheffield, not those who have just moved in, probably income is pretty much the same. So that affordability gap is discussed in there.
Good.
And I think it's going to be important, which he can help you with, to establish what is the affordability range versus market rate.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
So, and we'll include the Housing Commission's charter in the packet that goes out to members. I also have copies of the housing production plan requirements by the state. This opens the gate to grants. Okay. So they're here. If anybody wants them, they can have them. I'll send you guys one through Jill. Okay.
So we'll look forward to working with everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Would you like a motion with regard to the composition of the Committee for Housing Production Plans?
Sure.
So I'll make a motion that we establish the Committee for Housing Production Plans comprised of 7 members, one of which would be from the Planning Board, one from the Housing Committee or the Housing Commission, and one from the Select Board, and at least 4 from the public at large.
Do you want 7 or you want to say no more than 7? You
No
want
more
the
than
full-
7.
No more than 7.
Thank you.
All right. Is that?
I'll second that.
All right. And so all those in favor?
Aye.
We're going to take just letters of interest that can come to Rhonda. We will announce those who have applied at the next meeting, which would be, I think, the very first part of November. And I think if we have 7 people, we may consider just making the appointments. I don't know whether the board wants to wait another 2 weeks, and now we're into the middle of November, or whether you want to make a decision now that if you have the right number of people, at least 7 people, you will make an appointment at that time. What do you want to do?
I think that's possible, yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Okay, so if anyone's interested, get your letters in,
yeah.
because there may be appointments made at the next meeting in November, okay? And again, as soon as we get the housing needs assessment, we'll put that up on the website and send an advance copy to the Housing Commission, care of Kathy. All right, and again, if anybody, I did 5. If anybody wants them, they're right here for you after the meeting, okay? Any other comments on this? We're going to move on. You guys good? Okay, all right. Let's move on to our next item, which is discussion and possible action on 2 citizens' petitions regarding bylaw revisions. Rhonda, would you walk us through this, please?
Sure. So we received, it's dated October 1st, 2 citizens petitions, Article 1 and Article 2, that they respectively ask that they be placed on the next town meeting special warrant that will take place during the fall of 2021. It was submitted by Lauren Hyde. So Article 1 has to deal with odor control plan with marijuana. It's very lengthy, and I can give a copy to anybody who's interested in having a copy, or we can put them on the website, whatever is best for the
Let's see if
town.
anyone would like a copy, because it will eventually come out, through the
Correct.
planning board, et cetera.
Article 2 is, it changes the table of use regarding marijuana in different districts throughout the town. So there's multiple changes to that as well. The petitions have been certified by the town clerk's office. Both of them have certified. We will send them on now to the planning board for the planning board to hold their public hearings.
And since this is a citizen's petition, the planning board will basically hold their public hearing on it. They can make no changes to it.
Correct.
It goes to the voters as it is presented.
Correct.
All right. Do we need a motion to send this on, or is it just protocol?
It's protocol. It'll go to the planning board.
Okay, all right. So our next item is appointment announcements. This is announcements for the Conservation Commission. Martin, would you make this announcement for us?
Yes, so we have 2 interested parties for the opening on the Conservation Commission. One is George O'Lean and one is Donald Rose.
And we're making that announcement today, and we will appoint at the next board meeting. All right? Thank them both for their interest in the Conservation Commission. There's still plenty of openings, if I remember correctly, on other boards in town. Rhonda, those are up on the website.
They are.
So if you're interested in applying for a board, getting involved, now's a good time to do it. And you can just go to the town website and see those openings. And if you're interested, you can call any members of the town administrative staff, the chair who's listed there, or even the select board, and we can put you in the right direction to talk to someone who can give you information about that board or commission or committee. Our next item is discussion possible action regarding Sheffield Historical Society Park of Honor. Is there someone here to speak from the Historical Society or on this?
The Legion has no objection.
Okay, so we have a letter from them, so we'll turn this over to Rhonda, okay?
So we received an email from Paul O'Brien stating that they would like to erect the Park of Honor as in the past with flags 10 to 15 and our memorial panels late October through mid-November. And they are hoping to have coffee and donuts on Veterans Day.
Would anyone like to?
I'll make a motion that we enable the Park of Honor with 10 to 15 flags and the memorial panels between late October and mid-November.
Second.
Second. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Rhonda. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding Polikoff Road traffic study. This was done, I think we talked about this, 2 meetings ago? Probably 2 meetings ago. And I think one of the items was to digest what it said. I think it's important for people to remember that this study was done in part to try to get validation of truck traffic on Polikoff Road, trying to get like the volume and a sense of the type of truck traffic, since there was the feeling that trucks were coming on from Clayton Road. So while it may not have been the exact perfect spot for those counters to be placed, they were placed very close to the town line. So there was no other place that a truck could have come from except from Clayton Road. So it did capture that these trucks were coming from Clayton Road or going to Clayton Road. As such, I also think that the speeds were probably inhibited by either just starting like 100 feet from the road or approaching a stopping place, stop sign that would have been 100 feet. So I'm not myself sure that the speeds were accurate, but we do see that 11.9% of the average daily total on the 2 days they took the counts were trucks, which also included buses and vehicles. So we also then talked with BRPC, and that got in, I hope, the packets, or no, about what could be done about this.
I don't think that's it.
That didn't get in the
seen that.
packets, I'm sorry. Well, we got information from BRPC that there's actually, I'm sorry, this is going to postpone this discussion, and I do apologize for this. We got information from BRPC, Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, who did this study, that there is a way, there's one for you and one for Jill, there is a way to work with DOT to consider a heavy commercial vehicle exclusion. And this is outlined on this page. There's a lot of things. I wanted to bring this to the board's attention tonight, and I'm sorry that I didn't have it included in your packets earlier. But it goes through a lot of procedures that have to be, and characteristics that have to be met if the town were to look at limiting heavy commercial vehicles from certain roads, whether this would be Polikoff, Clayton, Salisbury, or wherever in town where there may be heavy truck traffic. So I wanted to ask the board to think about this. I'd like to bring this up at our next meeting. And I hope that everyone in the meantime, one-on-one, will also have a chance to talk with Rhonda, because she has insights from both the police and our highway superintendent as to how viable this would be, we can also each read through this and see whether any of our roads in town, if we were to consider this feasible, would meet these requirements. It's not light reading. In the meantime, I'm wondering if we would like to consider asking the police department to put some folks out there in the Clayton-Polikoff area during the times of the day when the trucks are there and see what's going on.
In terms of speed as well as.
Speed in terms of, yeah, I don't think, just a minute, please. I don't think we can, there's no limit on the trucks coming there. We could also put a weight limit. That's another way to do it. Okay, when you read this, I have the feeling there's more ways to do this than just a simple straightforward. But I think maybe a police presence there at different times of the day as part of their patrol might slow people down or give us another validation of who's coming through. So I'm just wondering if the board would like to take any action at this moment on Polikoff.
I think if we could make a request to the police department to just increase their presence at convenient times and during the workday, just to help observe what's going on, would be useful as we then come back to this in our next meeting.
That would be fine.
That'd be fine, okay. Would you like to speak? You have to go up and announce your name and where you live, please, and then wipe down the microphone when you're finished.
Sam Stolzar, Polikoff Road. The police department actually is out there quite a bit. I just want to give them due credit. Chief Munson himself even is out there. Pretty regularly I see them.
Thank you for-
Police officer in Great Barrington, they know me.
Yeah.
They use my driveway sometimes. At least in my section road, speed's not the issue as much as the size of the trucks and the manner the trucks come from Clayton Road, our Clayton Road, turning onto Polikoff Road, and part of it is a road design issue. Renee, I sent you an email.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next, so you're segueing beautifully.
So I'll let you do that, and I can always come back.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Effectively, the road is shaped almost like an on-ramp. So you come off of Clayton Road and kind of just glide onto Polikoff, which is fine if you're a passenger car. But it allows two things. It allows people to enter the road at high speed, or not even necessarily high speed, but travel speeds as opposed to slowing down and making a right-hand turn. And it allows the trucks to do the same thing. A truck going 30 miles an hour loaded with gravel, or not loaded with gravel even, comes around that corner and without fail, 9 times out of 10 is in the opposing lane by the time they get to my neighbor's driveway. And then certainly by my house, they're completely on the wrong side of the road. So besides just limiting truck traffic, and I don't know what the correct thing to do in terms of road configuration or signage or stop signs, but that would also be a big help, at least in my section of road, to slow people down with something with that intersection. You know, it's an oddly shaped intersection. It's kind of a weird, different entrances and exits. But between that and I do think that some sort of limit on the truck traffic, whether it's by weight or through traffic or whatever, would be helpful, for sure.
Thank you. I don't think you were close enough to the microphone. You
Oh,
have to
I'm sorry.
wipe it down, and you did have a mask on. I think Sam brings up an interesting point. I've almost been hit several times at that Clayton Road, Polikoff Clayton. Rhonda and I were talking today whether there are stop signs at all four corners, and I don't think there are. I know that I've seen a lot of people in Sheffield even, they just roll through stop signs. You know, they run through red, yellow goes on forever. It's not even a rolling stop anymore, it's just a straight round the corner. We had BRPC come out, how many years ago was that, Rhonda? Maybe 6?
It was longer than that, Renee, for Miller Avenue.
Yeah.
It was quite a while ago.
We were having issues on Miller, Bow Wow, and Cook. And I don't know if anybody remembers, besides Bonnie and those of us who were here, we had them come out and they made some very simple changes, but it did seem to help with the problem. Or has it helped at all, Bonnie? All right. Well, okay.
The stop sign is just about a bare indication to go from 50 to 45.
All right, okay. I'm just wondering if we should take a look at that intersection of Clayton and Polikoff and possibly at a minimum, just a minute, Lauren, at a minimum, look at how that intersection could potentially be reconfigured so that it is, one, people stop rather than just kind of, that's a hard view, especially, I think, to your right. But also, if they're not going so fast when they make that curve, they won't make necessarily as, I don't know if they'll make a wider curve or not. I would like to see something, I would like to see those intersections looked at. Is there anybody with me on this, or
Yes.
do I stand kind of alone?
You can look at the intersection. I mean, short of making it a four-way stop instead of a two-way stop, there's really not much you're gonna do to that intersection as far as
All
making
right.
it any different.
So a four-way stop.
A four-way stop would definitely slow people down. They may not stop, but it would at least allow them to tap on the brakes.
Then, of course, if they don't stop and they're in an accident, it's their responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Should we just go straight to that option and look at four-way stop?
I feel we could ask Chief what his opinion was, and I don't see any reason why anyone would be too opposed to making that a four-way stop.
Any comments, Rhonda?
The chief and I have talked about it before, but we should revisit it and take another look at it.
Okay, so let's ask the chief for his input, as well as whether he's got any other ideas in terms of even slight configuration of that. I don't know who owns what down there.
Okay.
And let's also ask Jim for him to weigh in. Lauren, did you want to make a comment?
Lauren Hyde, 535 Polikoff Road. I also wanted to just point out that the road, Polikoff Road, and the surrounding areas there is just so densely populated with families. There really are a lot of kids out there riding their bike, people walking their dog all the time. So we do see it kind of firsthand, and it's true. There are a lot of trucks, and I think I said to you in the email back to you, Renee, that the spot where the speed was looked at was probably not the best spot for speed indication, where you approach a stop sign or you do a complete 90-degree turn to go into the road. So I know as a parent of two little kids, I feel like there is danger. There definitely is danger on our road and in our neighborhood when it comes to that. So I just wanted to remind everyone that we are, I think, the most densely populated section of Sheffield, according to the town clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So we've got a couple of things we're working on. One is getting input from the chief and the highway department on a four-way stop and whether there's any modification. That's just a really odd corner. And we're doing our reading. And I think when we look at this, I know we've had problems on Salisbury with trucks, especially during certain times of year. So, I asked Anuja and Cleet for this for Polikoff, but I think we should look at it with other roads potentially in mind, if it makes sense. And I think there's a lot of variation between a total exclusion and a weight or an axle, or, or no exclusions, but we'll take this up. So Jill, let's have this on our next agenda, if we might. Are there any more comments on this? Otherwise, we're going to move on. All right, thank you for your comments. Grant update. I just wanted to I gave everybody a new grant sheet. I just wanted to let you know of a couple things. One, the one that I really, really, really wanted, the one stop, which would have given us the highway department's loader and a little John Deere for sidewalk and other jobs, we did not get. I understood that there were a lot of applications. Rhonda and I are scheduled for a debrief as to why we didn't win it. I think within the next week. So we'll see, and onward we go. We did get the one in for the rescue vehicle for the fire department, so we're waiting to hear on that. We should hear of a number of grants in late October, early November, and we'll see how we do. We're kind of winding down on that, and I would like to just get these grants cleaned up and completed rather than applying for any more unless something comes along. It's just too irresistible. And also, I know I myself am really struggling on the complete streets that we need to get done by the end of this year, the flashers on Berkshire School Road, and also just getting anything done on the complete streets, because there's been so many equipment delays and contractor buildup. Everybody's backed up, and the rain. So we're going to see what happens with that. But I'm doing the best I can. But I just wanted to kind of give you an updated sheet and see if you had any questions on it. Otherwise, that's it.
What is the feedback session on October 26th for the One Stop grant?
Well, that's the one where we applied for the loader and
Right.
the John Deere, and they are, the people who evaluated it are going to give us feedback as to what we could have done better.
Okay.
I'm just hoping that we'll find out how to apply for that grant in a way that will get us a win.
Okay.
So I really appreciate them doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you doing all this
Thank
work.
you.
on this.
Yeah, well, we've got to get some things finished. I think the only one that's on my track right now is the fire department has one, I think at the end of the year for $10,000. We got it last year for the washer and dryer, so I want to apply for that. And then I know, Rhonda, you've got the Maya safety grant. And when is that due?
It's in November.
What?
In November.
In November, okay, all right, and I know we're looking for something for that, so. All right, so let's do board items. Let's start with Bob.
I'm good.
Martin,
Also good.
okay, wonderful, I'm good. Town administrator items.
I'm good as well.
All right, I feel like we're going for a full hand here. Now, it's going time for public comments. Who would like to speak? Bonnie, please. Just remember to introduce yourself with your address and just wipe down the mic when you finish, unless you're wearing a mask.
Bonnie Silvers, 15 Bylaw Road. First, a major thank you. I know someone here spoke to me about wanting to fill out the community survey for the 8 Towns Regional Planning Board, and then other people did. They complained that they don't use technology. As a result, the deadline only for people who want to fill out the form on paper has been extended to the end of this week, and the surveys are at the senior center. So that came as a result of what I heard here and on the street. Secondly, again, a communication thing, and I know we've heard this from the select board to the school committee about budget. We will soon be very soon entering budget season. We are already beginning negotiations with the unions. Please look at sbrsd.org, participate, the finance meetings, you can just zoom in on them and to be up to date. And the third point, again, coming from discussions we've had about better communication, not only when we're asking for taxpayers' money, but what we're doing is, in addition to the budget newsletter, we're going to be putting out 3 newsletters to let people know more about the other things going on, particularly new initiatives in our district, the early childhood, the extended college, the career tech. I'm currently working on highlighting graduates So if any of you, and we're going to highlight them all the time, so if any of you have graduates to put me in touch with, or you're a graduate and would like a little highlight of what the district did for you, we want to make an increase in connection, and not only online. Those newsletters go out to everyone in the 5 towns. So thank you, Sheffield.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Whoa.
Who else? Lauren?
I was just wondering if there is a fall meeting date that's scheduled or being scheduled.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. And I was wondering if there was a number of certified signatures that was on that petition.
131 on one and 132 on the other, I think.
Oh, I would have to look it up, I don't know.
I think it was,
Okay.
it was in those numbers.
134 and 132.
131.
Sorry.
Okay.
But it wasn't enough for a special town meeting.
Yes, intentional. Totally intentional. Okay.
All right.
But do you think that there is going to be a winter or a fall meeting?
We planned on it, we're kind of waiting to close our books out.
And the town garage is going to be part of it too, is that? No, it's not.
It may.
Really, I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious because I've been to,
We're taking-
for a while, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I would really, we have to give how much notice on that, Rhonda? It's
14 days.
14 days. So I don't think we want to get necessarily into the December holidays, so that's going to be a topic of discussion.
Okay,
There's just a lot of items, and it's really hard to get the hands are totally around them.
okay. I was
But,
just curious if I missed the date.
I think for your article, the thing is to get the public hearing, because they have to do certain things, as you know.
Yep, they have already received it as a courtesy a couple weeks ago. So that's good, I guess.
The key is when they're holding the public hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you. Who else? Anyone?
Motion to adjourn? Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, either in person or via CTSV.